Hello, fellas and ladies. I'm almost done, I swear to gosh. Tiff is still taking over this flippity-flapping channel. But, you know, hey, I already wrote all the reviews for Bite Size Breakdown. I have all 50 reviews. I'm not doing 50 for this channel. I have some sense of self-worth. But I did do 50 reviews for Bite Size Breakdown. It's all there in one amazing article on an amazing website, so go there now. Continuing off the TIFF coverage with Queer, the newest film from Luca Guadagnino, re-teaming with writer Justin Kuritzky's after Challengers came out earlier this year. He's already back, already a new Luca so quickly, wowie! And this film follows Daniel Craig as Lee, a drug addict, a queer man who flees to Mexico in the 40s, I think it was, and it's basically about him wandering around and going to clubs and going to bars. But the key thing that sets the movie off is he meets a much younger man played by Drew Starkey, and they grow a, kind of connection? Just right off the bat, if you're, hot off of Challengers going, oh, fuck yeah, Luca Guadagnino's the guy, he's the GOAT, he's the best ever. He is, but I should probably tell you, if that's not what you're getting here. This movie is a whole new tone from Luca Guadagnino, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. Between what I've seen from him, i.e. Call Me By Your Name, i.e. Suspiria, Bones and All, Challengers, and now Queer, the dude just loves shifting gears. There are some, key things that carry over from each movie, like his addiction to sensuality and to, arousal. He's clearly into that idea of human sexuality, and Queer is by no means an exception, but that's kind of the key carryover from each movie, because this movie is more of a atmospheric, psychedelic, art-housey kind of trip. The plot is as loose as can be. It's more about vibes in a way. There's a lot underneath the surface, but, in terms of plot, there isn't really one. It's more examining this bond between Daniel Craig and Drew Starkey's characters that, kind of reveal a little more to than what's on the surface. You are supposed to kind of question if these two kind of belong to each other, or if they're just kind of seeking each other out, kind of out of needs instead of romance. There is a bond, sure, but you kind of are questioning if they should be together. I really like Daniel Craig's performance. I actually think this is one of my favorite performances of his. It might actually be my number one favorite performance of his. I just gotta think about it. This is certainly the Craig performance of his I've been waiting for, kind of waiting for him to go very deep into a role and bring out something very interesting. This is by no means Oscar baity. This isn't trying to do anything. A lot of what he does is buried underneath, but there is something so obviously tragic about this performance that I think Daniel Craig performs masterfully. I also want to shout out Drew Starkey, because he is so stoic and so closed off the entire movie. He's sort of like an anomaly, but you're so drawn to him, and successfully, because you are kind of going through Daniel Craig's purview, and he's so drawn to this enigma of a human. I also want to give a shout out to Jason Schwartzman. He really stands out. He's kind of in a fat suit, but he is a scene stealer in every scene he's in. He is very funny, very energetic. I also want to shout out Leslie Manville, who he has a very, very minimal role in the final act, but I was kind of surprised that was even Leslie Manville. I only knew because I knew she was in the movie. And I was like, well, we haven't seen her yet. Is that her? But like I said, this movie is very vibes. And I mean that complimentary. I feel like that was clearly intentional. I was very intentional of what Guadagnino and Justin Kuritzky was trying to do. I haven't read the book that this movie is based on, but apparently it is pretty faithful to what the book is. There's a lot of psychedelic surrealism in this movie, a lot of interesting visuals that the movie represents. I love the way the sets look almost mannequin-esque. The movie's so bright and colorful. It works so well with the tone, despite what dark undertones there is. There's something so elusive about this movie. Even the way the movie is shot, it's just something so grabbing about it, so mysterious even. But I do think audiences are going to be a little pulled back from this movie. Like I said, there's a very loose bit of a plot, and audiences are just kind of gonna feel like, well, I just kind of watched nothing. They're wrong and stupid and dumb, but I feel like there are gonna be audiences who aren't into this esoteric style. Audiences are gonna feel isolated because it's not in your face, especially coming off of Challengers. Even I can admit there were moments where the movie kind of got close to losing me, especially towards the third act where they kind of just go to a jungle just to get some ayahuasca. There were moments where I was like, why are we here now? I like it when they were roaming Mexico City and going to clubs and taking note of the atmosphere and kind of being together and absorbing this bond, and then in the third act kind of loses that a bit. However, it did win me back with something very powerful. It does kind of hammer home this idea of what leisure seeking and how it comes from a sense of longing and like being alone and how it could lead to addiction, whether that be drug addiction or sex addiction. It was very palatable and towards the end, and they did bring me back when the movie almost got away from me. The visuals of this movie are so stunning, and all of it's very purposeful when it comes to what it's trying for. This collaboration from Kritzky's and Guadagnino, and also Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, also from Challengers, and they're very ambient, weird score. It's not like anything you've heard from them. Straight up, they can score anything and I'll be in. But this collaboration, once again, puts something very new, even though they're working together again. This will not be what everyone's movie. I totally acknowledge that. But for me, I found something so satisfying about it that I just kind of can't stop thinking about it. I'll admit, when I left the movie, while I did really enjoy the experience, I did kind of ask myself what exactly I got out of it. But the more I ponder on its visuals and its, story and what these characters represent, I did find something very meaningful in it. Queer will be far from everyone's cup of tea, but Luca Guadagnino continues to impress with something wholly new from him. Something so atmospheric and fascinating, yet heart-wrenchingly tragic at the same time. In ways that could isolate audiences, yes, but for me, I fell for it and continue to admire it the more I ponder on it. And I'm going to go ahead and give it 8 Lucas out of 10. For what it's worth, it's closer to a 7.5 than an 8.5, but I feel like 8 is correct for how I feel at the moment. I could go up on subsequent viewings. I really want to give it a second viewing. I feel like I'll get more from it from there. We're talking about Oscars, just throw it in the garbage, every single category except for actor. No, Kritzky's not getting nominated for this. Guadagnino's not getting his director nom. Don't even try and throw a tech in. The Academy's not going to go near this movie, except for maybe actor. And I do think Daniel Craig had a really good shot. Just from the outset, precursor-wise, he could easily get everything except for SAG. That's off to a good start. He is really good, but he's not trying for an Oscar, which isn't a problem to an extent. Like Adrian Brody's not really going for an Oscar. Ray Fiennes isn't going for an Oscar. They're still going to get the nominations. I know I said he's going to win. Oops. But voters might feel it's a little meandering and aimless and might just say no to queer overall. But they could go for Daniel Craig. It's clearly his time to get nominated. If A Complete Unknown falls off the face of the earth, I would easily put Daniel Craig back in. But he will not be obvious. Unless he gets SAG, he will not be obvious. And I'd be a little shocked if SAG went for him. I am really interested in how audiences will feel about this movie overall. My guess is they're not going to go for it, but I feel like the right audiences will feel it. Audiences expecting Challengers going to be pissed, so just take Challengers out of the equation. But I am excited to see what people think about this movie, and I'm excited to see it again. Like, subscribe, and share, and that's enough of that. Drugs time!